Welcome everybody, welcome to class 6. This is our sixth class now out of the total 6 classes. And what we're going to do today is we're going to basically bring the other 5 classes all together, tie everything up together. And what we have here, and I've called it, is the map home. Okay, so I'll be giving each of you this when we finish today. Not until we finish. Alright.
But it has the map.
It has the map.
Okay.
And we're going to go through the map step by step.
And we can punch it in our GPS.
Yes, that's it. And you have to, not only is this map step by step, but it is precise in detail of what you should do at each step and what you shouldn't do. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is in some parts, you know, like when we're discussing the 3 layers of the ego, which keeps us all separate, okay, if you basically go at the defenses first, you're going to be in for a hard time. And unfortunately, a lot of people in spirituality and the course, that's where their first protocol is. They start looking at their denial, they start looking at all of this stuff, and it leaves them in you see, the ego is very powerful in its center. Okay? And there's unbelievable power in there, and its defenses are, like Jesus says in the course, they're foolproof. Okay? But they're not God-proof. And that means that there is a way to do this. A clever way. Okay? So when we go through all of these steps, okay, you'll get a clear idea of where you should start, what should be your state of mind when you're approaching this. Because that's very important. There's a chapter in the course that's called Setting the Goal. Anybody know? Setting the goal. Huh?
Well,
And it is basically whatever you decide to do. If you're in a relationship, you set the goal. If you're deciding to wake up, you set the goal. If you're doing a Course of Miracles, why are you doing a Course of Miracles? Okay? So let's begin. And we're going to start off at step 1. Okay? So, one of the first things in spirituality that you must do, and this is going to save you time if you can follow this guidance. Okay? So, as everybody knows at this stage, I teach in the levels. You have 1, 2, 3. Okay? Now, at the moment, everybody is at this level, and they're trying to solve the problems at this level. And you know what Einstein said. What did Einstein say?
You cannot resolve a problem at the level at which it was created.
Right. Okay, and that's the big problem here. You see, here is the split mind. The split mind is basically attached to the body here. What we do with this mind, we project those thoughts, good thoughts, bad thoughts, thoughts that are right, thoughts that are wrong. We project that onto the world, and then the world does what?
Reflects them back at us.
Exactly. So that's the process involved here. So, if you're trying to solve the problem here, what's the fundamental error that everybody's making at this level?
They're coming from the ego.
well,
It's all ego at this level.
Well, when we set a goal, that's what we call the good, and what we want to get away from, we call the bad, and we're only reinforcing the split.
You want to see the biggest calm in the world. Everybody's falling into it. Alright? This is how insane it is, and this is how clever the ego is, right? See this part of the mind, the shadow? Okay? It's basically ego wrong-mindedness as it's in the course, right? So here are 2 parts to yourself. One part of you is suffering, okay? And the other part is searching for the answers to that suffering. Yeah? He's with me? You all can relate to this. It's the seeking for the suffering that's creating the suffering. It's the seeking of the answers, that's creating the suffering. So one part of the mind is trying to solve the problem of the other part of the mind, but the mind that's trying to solve the problem is the same mind that's creating the problem. Regina? Do you see now just what you said? Here, this mind is trying to solve the problem. Solve this problem. Okay? But It's this mind that is the creator of the problem.
So you're trying to fix it with the same mind that's
That's
creating
pretty.
the problem.
And it's you're trying to fix that's actually creating hell in your mind.
The fixing itself,
Exactly.
or the act of fixing.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is what Einstein was, whether he was clear about it or not, but this is what he was talking about. Okay, this part of the mind is creating the problems of this part of the mind, and then at a certain time, I'm going to fix it. Now, can everybody relate to that? Yeah? Can you relate to that in your own life?
Can you give an example?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Can anybody? Somebody who's on the search for enlightenment. What do they do?
Like when you're trying to do the world's forgiveness.
Yes.
So you're trying to, so you know, your persona is trying to be
Yeah.
a better person, but then that just creates resentment because you never really forgave the person. So it makes your shadow bigger while you're making your persona trying to be better.
Yeah, exactly. What else?
Well, I was just wondering, a thought popped in when Gloria shared that if you're trying to fix it, you're saying it exists, you're stabilizing it at the same time,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that seems to be a problem. It's like,
You can't look at the scenery for you.
yeah.
You see at this problem. You see here at this level. Okay? This is its entirety here. You know, it's one thought system, this. But the ego splits it into two thought systems. Why? Because it wants to duplicate here, and it wants to think that being in here is really being in here. So this is a mirror of this. Okay? So, what that means is, really, you have a lot of bad thoughts, because this is what the ego is, right? It's all thoughts of murder, rape, guilt, fear, all of those, right? So the ego projects that down in here, then the ego manifests all the good thoughts. And these good thoughts and bad thoughts now go to war with each other. This is the mind that is at war with itself, that Jesus is in the Course. And I'm sure there's other spiritualities that basically have this concept in it too.
That's called neuroses.
The what?
That's called neuroses.
Neuroses.
Neurosis, yeah, when
Yeah.
you're neurotic, you're
Yeah.
in a conflict.
Yeah. Or there's another one for it called schizophrenia.
That's complete split.
But this is a complete split. Because the one thing about it is, what are we trying to do with the shadow all the time?
Suppress it.
We're trying to split it.
When a relatively healthy person is aware of a lot of their problems, and a person that completely suppresses it is schizophrenic.
Yes.
There's levels of
Yes,
degrees
yes,
of
of
this.
course, I agree with you.
I mean, some people you ask them, do you have any problems? Are you perfect? They go, no, I got my issues.
Yeah.
Another person, they say, I have no problems. Everyone else is the problem. They're usually the ones that
So
are.
what are they doing? Everybody's managing their problems. Nobody's solving the problem. Which brings us back to Einstein. Where do you solve the problem? Huh? Speak up, don't be shy.
At a different level.
Right, which level?
Second.
Second level.
What?
It's, you can only solve the problem from here. All these problems that are down here cannot be solved here. That's the great illusion.
And that's where therapy happens.
Where?
There,
Here.
level one.
Here.
Yeah, you go to another person and they tell you how to fix, yeah.
Yes. So you can see.
So that's why therapy doesn't work.
Well, if you read the psychotherapy in the back of the course, you know, you'll see why. And you'll see then everybody here, right? What this is really all about now, you must become your own guru. If you're on a journey to wake up, the first thing that you should be really looking at, I have to learn how this works myself. I have to be my own guru. Because when you look in the mirror, the eyes that's looking back in you is the guru. But like we talked about in the last class, the judge steps in front of those eyes. Okay? And this is the judge. Here's the observer. Here's the guru. Here's you. Okay? Here's the secret. as long as you're continuing the searching, you're here. And as long as you're giving energy to this, you're giving energy to this. Okay? So you have to come a point where you say, I don't need to learn anything more. The only thing I need now is basically how to solve the problem. I have to get this out of the way. That's the only thing from now on. Because as long as you are continuing to acquire information, every bit of information you're taking in, it becomes an idea, and eventually it'll become a belief. The whole point of waking up is to empty the cup. Not keep replenishing it, not keep filling it up. Yeah? So,
You said the guru would be level 3, where you're the observer. But then you said the judge that's in front, is that level, oh, okay, thank you.
you know, so this is the observer here. Okay, this is the judge, and this is hell. Okay, so when you choose the judge, you're sentencing yourself to hell.
I thought you said judge was not number 1.
Huh?
I thought you said judge was in the,
Yeah.
you also said judge was number 2.
But you see, this is the judge that stands in front of the observer. But here's where the action takes place. You understand? What's between here and here?
The mind.
What's true and what's false. So as long as you are looking what's false and believe that it's true, then the ego stands in front of you. So that's the ego stand in front of you when you look at something and make it real, that's false. Now this comes into play, because the next step then is the ego projects these thoughts and your mind split. You see, everything in this world is split. And when you make anything real in this world, you split everything because you're splitting your own mind. And as long as your mind is split, you're going to be looking at everything through the eyes of right and wrong, or good and bad. Okay? So, enough on that. Let's move along. That was just a recap. We've covered this a number of times in the classes. So let's go step 1. Which path? Everybody know what I'm talking about? And this first step is very clear, especially for people doing A Course in Miracles, but this applies to every spirituality. Okay, you've got a choice. Because step 2 depends on this choice. Okay, so you have 3 options. A Course in Miracles, okay, is a book. And it's a book that can be anything that you want it to be. Okay? So I've picked out here basically 3 options for you to consider of how to approach your journey to wake up. Okay? It's a mindset that you're training your mind. Remember the whole, at the beginning of chapter 2, Jesus said we're too tolerant of mind wandering. So we need to focus them. We're too tolerant of mind wandering. Which means is a thought will come in and we'll attach ourselves to it, and that thought will take us away into the past, will take us away into the future. Past, future. Okay, when you attach yourself to any of these thoughts that actually take you into a memory or take you into, preparing your future, both are the same. So the 3 options are this in regards to A Course in Miracles. First, the book can be a holy book for you. Second, the book can be a spiritual book for you. And third, the book can be a book of psychology for you. So what does each really mean? Okay? You see, if you're attached to Western Christian symbolism, you're more than likely to basically be doing this book coming from the holiness that's in it, from religion's aspect. And there are a lot of people coming from religion into A Course in Miracles, and the symbols of religion are in there because religion has dominated the Western world for 2 centuries. So people are attached to those thoughts. The reason why it's in there is to let people detach from those thoughts. Okay? The book's a spiritual book. Okay? Because it has an abundance of spiritual philosophy, insights, and revelations. And this is why nearly every, true spiritual leader in the world is studying the Course. It is, it is the holy grail for spiritual people. The revelations that are in it it turns all spiritual symbolism actually on its head. I have revealed a lot of this in my book that's just about to be published in the next few days. So, I've been saying this for 40 years. But we're nearly there. I went for the final proofreading last night. Okay, so, the book then can be a book on psychology. And all true psychologists in the world now are studying this book because of the psychology that's in this book. And again, it turns the whole psychology of the world upside down. So, you have 3 options. Do you want it to be holy? You have to decide. Because if you're going to go this a la carte, alright, you're going to be basically, alright, you're going to be taking a bit of this, and you're going to be taking a bit of this, and you're going to be taking a bit of this. And are you really doing anything seriously? So let me ask, who's doing, anybody? Nancy, you're doing the Course. Have you thought about this?
No, I hadn't thought about it, but if I would, off the top of my head, I would say I was going with the spiritual and the psychological.
Okay.
The two.
Yeah, that's okay. There's none of these wrong, by the way. And it would be very, if you have a problem with religion, then I would say to you, basically, you don't have to basically do the religion, but if you're going to do the spiritual or the psychology, what you have to do with the religion part of it, or the Christian symbols, you have to reinterpret them. Do you know? So if you're doing the psychology or the spiritual part, you still have to reinterpret all the symbols in the Course. Bring it all together. You see, these 3 do meet at level 3. There's no difference in these 3 at level 3. But at this level, there's a big difference in these 3. And you'll see as we go through this. So Roy, would you be between the spiritual psychology, or would you be psychology or spiritual, or?
We have a combination of those 2.
If you had to pick one, which would you pick?
In terms of the Course?
In terms of you wanted to focus on waking it up.
Psychology at this moment.
Yeah, good choice. And the reason why I say that's a good choice is because this book is for everybody that thinks.
For everyone that thinks?
Yeah.
Is there anyone who doesn't?
Okay. There is actually.
I think so.
There is.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
and I'm not joking when I say that.
No, it's not a joke.
Because it's our thinking that needs to be corrected. So if you're going down the spiritual path, be very careful that you're just avoiding the thinking part of it. You can attach yourself to the spiritual specialness. That's the big trap for people who are coming at this from the spiritual approach, because here is the spiritual specialness key. Okay? A lot of people in spirituality are coming from spirituality in this room. They're coming from, I've got the truth. No one else has got the truth. Or, I'm in touch with my spiritual self, my essence. No one else is. Or I'm different from other people. I have the truth while other people don't have the truth. This is all spiritual specialness. Okay? The true spiritual person is one with everybody. No differences. There's nobody better, there's nobody worse. You lift everybody up to the same. Okay? Because this is the one mind. Here, you can see this is the opposite down here in hell. Okay? Everything's split in 2. Where you have separation, you cannot avoid conflict. Simple as that. So, the whole point, Jesus says, You can blaspheme God. You can blaspheme the Son. But you cannot blaspheme the Holy Spirit. What did he mean? Anybody take a rough guess?
Because the spirit, inner spirit is within us, we're blaspheming ourselves. We blaspheme something external, it's not as
Yeah,
but
but God is spirit inside ourselves. We are spirit inside ourselves. Think about it. What is the symbol of the Holy Spirit?
Go. Go.
In the course,
It's the voice for God.
which is, anybody? Nancy? What's another word for the Holy Spirit?
Oh, your heart's now. No?
Christ consciousness?
Christ.
No, I use it way up the levels now completely.
Oh.
True right mind.
This is why. You can give out about yourself, you can give out about God, but this is the link home. This is the Holy Spirit. It's right-minded thinking. Okay, Nancy, here's the higher self. Okay? Your higher self is in here partially. Your personality is also in here partially, right? But here is your complete higher self. So it's the Holy Spirit that takes us up the ladder. So if you're going to not work with the Holy Spirit or right-minded thinking, then you ain't going anywhere. And this is why I come back to, Roy, what you were saying is, for anybody that's thinking, all right, this is a required course. Which means is that thinking has to be corrected. Okay? So to me, the psychology part of the course is the part that we all should look at, unless you have a way or a script or a means of just basically going from here to here. And that path would be the dark night of the soul, which would be a total surrender. So if anybody is up to that, that's fine. Then you can, but you're still going to be looking at it from this way. You're going to be still detaching from here, no matter what you do. So, you have three options: holy book, you have a spiritual book, and you have a book of psychology. So, Sandy,
Yes.
what option have you picked before today?
Oh, I haven't before today because I didn't know there were three options before today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think that?
All three?
No, one.
Just pick one?
Yes.
Probably psychology.
Yeah. Which means then you still have to reinterpret and understand the symbols of spirituality, of religion, because the spiritual symbols and the religious symbols are both the same. So to give you an idea, this is the ego right mind, it's the persona, there's the ego wrong mind, it's the shadow. It's also known as the yin and the yang. Okay? Here's the ego, here's the Holy Spirit, also known as wrong-mindedness, right-mindedness. Yeah? And then you have the higher self, awake, consciousness, so on. There's many symbols for that also. So it's always about, don't push a symbol out of the picture because you don't agree with it, because you don't believe it. Anything you believe, you're separating it from you. Is there anything you don't believe, Rob?
things that are contrary to facts.
Yeah. What is a fact?
Something that we
Believe.
demonstrated to be true.
Well, what is the truth?
For instance, it's not raining outside. I can look and I can verify that it's not raining.
Right. Well, a truth must be made whole. A single truth must be made whole. Do you know what that means? For it to be a fact.
But it applies to everybody.
We
Yes.
have to verify it within ourselves.
No. It must apply to everybody.
Oh, a universal truth.
Everybody and everything must be. So if I said, Jody, you are this, it ain't true unless it includes everybody. So a single truth must be made whole for it to be a fact. And I'm talking about content here. I liked your example about reading, that's form. In this world, yes, there's truths. Yes. And the truths are always decided by what's right or what's wrong or what's good or what's bad. So at this level, okay, if I said to you it's raining outside, you looked out now and he says it's not, where would you put me?
I put you in the wrong spot.
Yes,
Wrong
of course.
for that.
And you would be right. at this level.
At that level.
You know, but you see, there's 3 levels that we're doing here. I know there's 3 levels here, but there's 3 types of people also. There's those people who are asleep, there's those who are waking up, and there's those who are awake. So, what is it do you want to be? Because if you want to be awake, alright, then it's complete emptiness that you must attain. If you want to be successful in the world, you can be successful in the world from here. You don't need to discard all your attachments and everything else. Basically, everything that's pissing you off or annoying you is something that you need to take care of. But you can still have a job in the world, and you can still do all wonderful things in the world, but do it from here. Okay, this is above the battleground. It's above this battleground. So again, you don't need to, put yourself under the pressure. I need to wake up, because you're going to be coming from this part. Get to here, and then you see what you truly want. Here, you don't know what you want. Okay? Regina, out of those 3 options, what would you pick?
Number 3.
You go for psychology.
Awake you.
No, I'm talking about the 3 options. Holy book, spiritual book, or psychology.
Holy book.
You go for a holy book.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know why? And that's good for you, because you have attachments there. And that's the right path for you to take at this time. Okay? So anybody that has big attachments to do with the church, to do with guilt, to do with fear and all of that, don't push it out of the way. You're going to have to look at it. Even if you do the psychology, you're still going to have to reinterpret all of that anyway. So you're not going to be able to avoid what you're attached to. Yeah? So that's the first step. Second step. There's 7 steps, by the way. Okay, we'll be here till Monday morning. Now, and again, this is getting our bases right, where we're coming from. In our first class, I know there were a few people not here. Nancy, you weren't here, and a few other. But what we covered was the metaphysics of the separation. Okay? So what we're really doing here, when you come to this point of the course, what you're coming down to is what we did in the last class, which is choice. Yeah? So, again, how did we get here? This is very, very important to get your footing on the ground, also how to look at undoing that story. So you have 4 versions of the separation. Everybody know the 4? No. First one is the Garden of Eden story, where basically it was a woman's fault, Diane. I know it was you. And you got Roy to eat the apple. Okay? And we're all familiar with the story, and basically God condemned us to a life of suffering. And only at the last judgment will we be set free from the pain and suffering if we decide to be a good person and God lets us off the hook. So this story, you can see there's a lot of sin attached to it, there's a lot of guilt, and there's a lot of fear.
And separation.
Well, that's what sin is. It's sin of separation. When you read about sin in the course, it's a synonym for separation. So it was the sin of heaven we committed of our wish to be separate.
And duality also.
Well, this is duality. So, that's the first version. And that version had been around since basically the construction of the Bible. And you all know where the Old Testament was written. You all know why it was written and how it was written. No?
Tell us.
It was written in Babylon in 1200 BC. There was Babylonian king was Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, you might remember that from the Matrix. If anybody was it was one of the ships that they were in. But basically, he razed Jerusalem to the ground, and he took 12,000. He took all the citizens and held them in Babylon. Just remember David and the lion and all. Yeah, this was this. So at that time, there they thought they were going to be all killed because they were being thrown to the lions and everything. So 12 of them, the 12 tribes of Israel, got together and they started to write down their history because they all thought their people were going to be extinct. So they wrote down all the old stories of Abraham, Moses, the whole lot, God, Genesis, the lot. And it was all written in Babylon. But then Nebuchadnezzar, there was David, something intervened. I don't know the full story of it, I'm not going into it now. But basically they were released and they took the manuscripts back home with them. And that was the foundations for the Old Testament. Okay? So, my point here is this. Alright?
In Africa, there is a tribe that has the same creation story about a garden and getting expelled.
Mm-hmm.
And that tribe never had anything to do with
Yeah.
the Jewish Old Testament.
So Jesus came along then a couple of thousand years later, and Jesus introduced a new version of separation. Anybody know that? The prodigal son. And this story, he reinterprets the old story of Babylon. Okay? Where we didn't do anything wrong. That basically the son just basically wanted to have an experience of faraway lands. And his father wished him well and he set him off. And that is the metaphor and a symbol for us as the one son coming to this world. And the son ends up squandering everything. He squanders his wealth. That's a symbol for his spiritual self. Okay? He denies his spiritual self and he goes into material form. Okay? So there's no wealth in material form. Okay? And he lives in a state of fear. And he's living in a state of guilt now because he squandered his wealth. Not that his father's money. This is only a symbol for his spiritual identity. His bliss, his peace, his joy, his happiness. So Jesus reinterprets that story, and that's version 2. Version 3 then comes into A Course in Miracles. Okay? I.e., Nancy. Sorry. What's the story?
I was writing, what did you say?
Yeah.
Oh, that we wondered what it would be like if we separated from God.
Yeah. And to do that, we had a confrontation with God. We judged God, we separated, and the ego then basically told us we were sinful, guilty, and evil. So you can see version 3, the tiny mad idea, is the same as the first version, isn't it? Remember the version out of Babylon? Yeah? Sin, guilt, and fear. It's the same version as number 1 of the Garden of Eden, isn't it? Form might be a little bit different, but basically this is the same symbol: sin, guilt, and fear involved. Okay? So if you're doing a holy book, then that is basically, you're going to be attached to that form of the separation. If you're doing the book in psychology, out of those 3, what are you doing? What version would you pick? There's still one more version to go.
The prodigal son.
Yeah, of course, from those 3, it would be the prodigal son. Why would you get involved with stories of sin, guilt, and fear when you don't have to? Okay, so the 4th version is this. And it starts before the tiny mad idea. And this version is, you must understand the 2 states of heaven. One state is being, the other state is awareness. In the Course, these 2 states are called the Father and the Son, Creator and created. Doesn't matter the symbols you use here. Okay? But there is a difference. And when I talk to some people on A Course in Miracles and they say heaven is all one, you don't understand oneness. Very clearly, we're told in the Course that the Father and the Son. There's 2 states, and we're told repeatedly that we are not God. And we are not self-created. God is the only one that's self-created. That's the difference. So that's what this story was all about here. We wanted to be self-created. We wanted to be like God. We wanted to create ourselves. I.e., what are we doing? What are we doing with our bodies? We are creating bodies, aren't we? Yeah? So, every time you have a child or your parents or whatever, we're doing like God. This is the ego's version of creation. We create ourselves. Bodies create bodies. Isn't that right? Okay? So, in the Course, okay, and throughout the Course, you're repeatedly told the tiny mad idea never happened. Isn't that true? But some people just won't let it go. And they're still trying to undo that. And Jesus says in the Course very clear, you can't look on sin and forgive it. So if you look on the tiny mad idea and you believe that it really happened and you believe that you have to undo it, then you're in for a long, long road of conflict with yourself. Because here's where you're doing it. Okay? So, what is happening is being is moving into awareness. And for that to happen, there had to be some form of separation in our minds so we could come to know ourselves. Because if Jesus talks about it, if we had woke up in heaven, we would have been very confused that we were God. I.e., that's what the tiny mad idea is really telling us. If you'd have woke up in heaven, this is what would have happened. You must know yourself. You're not God, but there's nothing inside you that's not of God. And that leaves us very confused here. And in this world, you just look around you, you'll see how many people playing God. Every time somebody tells you what to do, they're playing God. Every time somebody gets angry with you for not doing something, what are they doing? They're playing God. So we all have this God consciousness, this God complex that's inside us. Some more than others. Okay? But ultimately, it is only the acceptance of our equality with each other. Jesus calls it in the Course the brotherhood. And he called it the brotherhood 2,000 years ago also. And many other people called it the brotherhood. Einstein called it the brotherhood. Carl Jung called it the brotherhood. The brotherhood. Okay? And in the Course it's called your brother, along with the brotherhood. So when we can accept our equality with each other, okay, that's when you can move up to here. There's other ways to go up there and we'll show. Okay, so to sum up the fourth version, it's this. There were three objectives for all of this to occur. The first one was we were to experience everything that heaven is not. The second one was when we experience everything that heaven is not, and we want nothing else, you move to step 2, which is
Prodigal son.
know yourself. No, we're on about the fourth version. There's 3 parts to the fourth version. So, we're going to experience everything that heaven is not. And when you make your mind up that you want nothing else, then you move to step 2, which is now you must know yourself, which is the separated self here, the world, and the body. Then, once you do that, now you're ready to wake up. That's the fourth version. So, we had to invent a story that we would believe that we were separate. Now, this is the version that I do and have done. Okay, I don't do the sin, guilt, and fear. Okay, this is as close to the prodigal son that you can get. Okay, so you're free to go the sin, guilt, and fear Garden of Eden. You're free to go down the tiny mad idea road, but all you're going to be doing is manifesting and undoing guilt all around you. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life looking and searching for guilt? Anybody here? There's another way to do this. There's another reinterpretation for all of this. You're free to go down, and there's not wrong that road. You know, some people, Regina, you're very attached to your guilt. So this is the path for you. Because what's in the way is the way. It's not true.
Because what?
What is in the way is the way. And there's one thing that's sitting in front of you that's blocking your happiness. And it's guilt. So that's what you have to basically now undo, get that block out of the way. So you can see the four versions here, right? If I, or anybody wanted to go down the psychology road, this is the road to go down. What you're doing is you're reinterpreting and you're looking at the whole thing from a completely new perspective. You're looking at this now and saying, right, I made this whole thing up. Why? Because I needed to wake up, and now I can basically take the whole thing apart because it was me who made it in the first place. Jesus tells us that throughout the course. He says, don't tell me this was difficult. He says, it was you that made it. And that's what we have to learn. We might think the course is very difficult. That's just because we have had a head in the sand for 20 or 30,000 years. So we're awakening up now. Okay, any questions on that?
What was step number 3 again? Step 2 is know yourself, step 3 was what?
Step 3 is wake up. Basically now what you're doing is you're set in motion, I'm ready to wake up. Okay? So that was the 3 objectives.
Would you define wake up?
Get into here.
Yeah, but what, would you describe, what is?
Conscious. That you're fully aware of every thought, you're fully aware of choice, you're fully aware of your bliss, you're fully aware of your spiritual identity. You know you're not a body, you know the body's only a vehicle that you're experiencing in this world. It's basically when the light is switched on.
And do you still suffer?
No.
Do you still have negative thoughts?
Well, you can look at any thought in this world and you can take it seriously or you can laugh at it.
So when you're awake, you don't take it seriously anymore?
What happens here is, right, when you're here, you're in the state of bliss.
Yes.
Okay? Then, here's the world. Remember here. So, if you want something in the world, right, you come in and now you're in the ego thought system and you'll have these, or you'll be witness to these thoughts. Because you're in the world.
So you still have those thoughts?
But okay? So what you're doing is, it's like everything else. You'll be here, looking at here. So you're going to have these thoughts. This is all here. They're all circling around. But if you take one of them seriously, you end up here. So you can look at the world from here. Or you can look at the world from here. And if you look at the world from here, alright, then you come down into here, into this low level.
So when you're awake, do you still have those false thoughts?
You're not listening to me. Because when you seek outside yourself,
Yeah.
right? Here I'm in my center, here. So I want to do something in the world. Now I'm here. Now the thoughts are around. But you don't attach yourself to it. You're fully aware of them. You're not mind wandering. You see, when we're at this level, we're having all these thoughts. And we actually think there are thoughts and we believe them.
Mm-hmm.
And then we think, how can, I'd be a nice person when I'm having such bad thoughts. All coming from here.
Okay, so when you're awake, the thoughts are still happening, but you
No,
don't believe
you
them?
see, you're not listening to me. You can stay in your center and you're in bliss, there are no thoughts. Or when you're seeking outside yourself, you enter into judgment, you're into the ego. Now there's thoughts, but you don't attach yourself to them.
But I want to know if the thoughts continue when you're awake.
No.
No, they don't.
They stop.
Okay.
They stop.
Right, let's move on. Okay?
No,
Peace.
yeah.
Just peace.
Before you move on,
You
I
just
have
feel-
a question.
with your hand.
The spiritual path and the holy path. I'm not clear what the difference is between the two.
Well, what is the spiritual? You know a lot of spiritual people, don't you? They're into spiritual symbolism. They're into Reiki and they're into the yin and the yang and all of that. Well, that person will be going down that and they'll be using those symbols.
Symbols, okay.
Okay, so the person who's coming from, say, guilt and religion and everything, they'll be going down this path, same path, okay? But now their symbols will be different because they'll be into guilt, fear, damnation, salvation, all those Christian symbols.
And that's holy.
Yes.
Holy.
So the spiritual symbols and the Christian symbols are the same. And even the psychology symbols are the same. But you see, people might do the course and try to basically, right. I know a lot of people who won't do the course because of the Christian symbols.
Oh, I wouldn't for years.
That's what's in the way is the way, because that's the block. It must be done to be reinterpreted. Because you can take any Christian symbol and reinterpret it. What is Christ? Anybody?
The Son of God.
Son of God. Okay, what's another term for the Son of God? Being. Isn't it? What's another term for it? Creation. You know, there are many symbols out there. But you see, people just get attached to one symbol and then they won't let it go. And then every other symbol is wrong. And all they're doing now is they're back down into here, writing wrong and good and bad symbols. Every symbol that's out there, the ego can put it in one of these rooms, or you can put it in one of these rooms. Reinterpretation is the name of the game. Okay? If you look at the levels, you dissect the course down into the levels, right? Just take the symbols that I have, the diagrams I have, you can put any symbols in the course into any of them. Jesus gave Helen the words of the course over 7 years. Okay? Jesus, God, introduced me to God 7 years ago in Revelations. And I received all the symbols of the course over 7 years. But I didn't receive, basically, the way I received them was in visions, lucid dreaming, out-of-body experiences. Okay? So, what I had to do with those symbols, I had to look at the course, I had the symbols. I had to take all the words that Helen was given and put them in to the symbols. And that's what I've done. Remember what the course says at the beginning. Words are symbols of symbols twice removed from reality. So when you get to the symbol, you're only one step away from reality. And that's what all these are. They're symbols. And everything in the course is a symbol. And it must be reinterpreted. Okay? How are we fixing it?
5 to 11. 5 to 11.
All right, I thought it was more. So we'll do one more step. Okay? And then we're going to take a little break. And then we'll come back to it. Because it's warm today. Okay? Welcome back, everybody. So now, just to recap. Step 1, this might look like a lot of stuff to do, but it's not really. It's just spend a little bit of time on each of these and get your head around it, because a lot of people are doing the course, and I would say to them when I work with them in the beginning, why are you doing the course? And they go, you know? So they haven't put much thought into this, they're just taking it on as another kind of interest and hobby. But it's a very dangerous book to be taken on as an interest and hobby, because it's going to open your mind to things that you really don't want to look at. Okay, so which path? Is it holy, spiritual, or psychology? Let me show you the 3 levels in this, okay? So, level 1 is the holiness. It's holiness because that's what we have been ingrained and conditioned with in our minds. Okay, level 2 is the psychology part of it, which brings you to the spirituality in the course, which is level 3. So, what that means is, a lot of people are leaving religion and jumping to spirituality. They're making one fundamental error. They're not looking at level 2. In my own journey, alright, I chose the path of the dark night of the soul, which meant that I lived for about 10 years engulfed in the shadow. No tools, I had no interest in spirituality, I wasn't trying to waken up, I wasn't trying to do anything. Okay? What I was trying to do, basically, right, was, have a successful life and try to be happy. And the more I tried to be happy, the more I was creating my persona. So what happened was, when all that pain started to build up and build up and build up, one night it just came to the point and I couldn't take it anymore. So I did something. And I didn't know that what I was doing at the time, it was kind of like something switched inside me. So I had a choice, and the choice was kill myself. Because the pain was that bad. And I couldn't do it because of my children, which left cause and effect. When I couldn't kill myself and I had no way out, I surrendered. Because when I chose not to kill myself, a new thought came in at that moment. And the thought was this, that I was doing this to myself. All my pain was my fault. Okay? I was creating my own suffering. And that thought had an effect. The effect of that thought was, if I was creating my own suffering, then I basically could uncreate it. I could let it go. And in that instant, I woke up. Why? Something took me in here, which opened the door. It was like pulling the bath, the stopper out of the bath. It all was washed away. Okay? So, step 3, master the tools to get you to level 2. I mastered 1, 2, responsibility. I took complete responsibility for everything in my life. All the pain, all the victimization, all the persecution, all the wrongs and rights that I believed had been done to me. A single truth must be made whole. Do you know what that means? You cannot take responsibility for this and not this. It's for all. It must be total. Because if you don't master responsibility, you ain't getting above this line. You ain't going anywhere. Simple as that. Okay? The price in here is 2 things. Complete responsibility and complete acceptance of what is. What is? What is? Anybody?
No.
And what else? Right. You've heard the term what is in spirituality. What's the meaning? You give it? Or what is you?
It means everything is the way they are. Everything is what it is. Not different than what we want it to be. It's not how we should think it should be. It just is what it is. It means accepting things as they are.
Right. Like I am, the I am, there's 2 basically what is this. There's 2 know thyself. Alright? When people talk about what is, accept what is, it's, yes, of course, it's heaven, isn't it? That's what we couldn't accept. Is that how the whole story came? You know, Diane basically forced Roy to eat the apple.
I don't know, I think he did it willingly.
And that's how rejection works. You know, one person blames the other person comes back with it. You know. Okay. So, you know,
So
in this,
acceptance means accepting your suffering?
no, the acceptance is this. Right. At this level, the acceptance of what is this. You accept this mindset. You accept, okay, there are people in the world attached to this mindset. And if you really want to do this, then you realize that everybody in the world is in this mindset.
So is the law of karma happening there at level 1?
Yes. If you can't accept something in this world, what are you doing? You're putting it in here, isn't it? You see something in this world and you go, I don't believe that. You're saying it's wrong. What are you doing? Putting it in there. So you have to accept what is here first before you accept what is up here. It's the same as the I am. You must know who the I am not first, which is the separated self, before you get to the true I am. So, know thyself means know who you're not first. And in that knowing, you'll get to know your true self.
So, would you talk more about acceptance?
There's 2 acceptances.
Yeah.
You accept that this person, even if they're wrong, that they're right. Can you do that?
Explain that. Even though
Because if you don't, you're splitting your own mind. Right and wrong doesn't matter.
okay.
Good and bad doesn't
Because
matter.
you're going beyond the realm of right and wrong.
You're going above.
So you don't get stuck on judging, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're
Yeah.
wrong, right?
Okay, right. So the 2 things, first of all, here, right? Complete responsibility for everything in your life and everything in the world. Is there anybody who won't take responsibility for everything in the world? Josh? Does that seem? To be asking too much?
Well, I mean, one thing you take responsibility is your version of the world. So if you just change the version, then you don't have to take that responsibility for that.
Yeah, but can you take responsibility that everybody in the world is looking at the world from this perspective?
Yeah. But,
Or from this perspective? And neither is right or wrong or good or bad.
yeah, that I can accept.
Okay? That's what acceptance is here.
But that's where my guilt is coming from, because I blame myself
Well,
for
that's okay. Stop it!
I take too much responsibility, that's why I have so much guilt.
Okay, right with you. So, those are the first two priorities here, right? 1 and 2. There's 7 tools here, and I want you to master every one of them. Because these tools is taking you to here. I don't want you to focus on anything else. If you're serious about this, then in this process here, step 3, it's about acquiring and mastering these tools. Because you can only solve all of this from here. Okay? So your only priority is, okay, in step 3 is to get to level 2. Because if you still are trying to do spirituality and acquire knowledge and work out who's right and wrong and prove this person right or prove that right, you're just basically repeating the same fundamental error over and over again. Any serious person who's doing the course, anybody who is in spirituality, it doesn't matter. This applies to everybody. You have to get to here to begin your work. So, complete responsibility, complete acceptance, and then the next one is, anybody give me one of the, there are 5 left. Anybody? Give me a tool.
Advanced true forgiveness.
God, you just all asleep? Nancy,
I don't know.
you have no tools.
Oh, well, forgiveness.
Wow!
Yes.
Wow! Wow!
That's a tool.
Yes. What is forgiveness? What's another name for forgiveness? If you're-
Detachment.
Detachment. You can use forgiveness if you are basically doing the Holy Book. Okay? And that's where forgiveness is in this level. Okay? You can do it in the spiritual book, so you can do detachment. And that's what psychology is. Psychology is correcting thoughts. And how we correct all our thoughts now is, yeah? This is the psychology part. All thoughts must be corrected. And that means they're reinterpreted.
So we constantly ask ourselves, is it true or is it false?
Exactly. That's it. And that takes you to level 2. That's the easiest way to get after you know, say if you don't want to take responsibility, you're not sure you're taking responsibility or acceptance. At least at this level now, look at everything through the mind of what's true and false. Remember, I looked at the video of Yogananda here in Los Angeles. And he moved into that stage where he basically began to see only what was real and the unreal. But he seen the unreal first. Why? Because he was looking from this level. What's real, what's illusion, the unreal. So you can look at any film, or look at anybody's journey, and you'll see exactly the levels that they are at on that journey by what they're teaching. Yeah? It's all symbolism. So, the third one is advanced true forgiveness, which is basically another way of saying advanced true detachment. It undoes judgment. Remember, judgment's on level 1. It takes full responsibility. And this is why it takes you into this mindset. Okay? So these are tools, these are ways of you getting to here. If you can spend every day at this level, you'll have a good life. You'll have a very good life. You know? So again, that's only about recalibrating your mind. It's only about correcting these thoughts. It's about letting all those thoughts go that you're attached to. The next one then is complete forgiveness. Complete forgiveness deals with the emotional pain body that we all experience. Do you experience it? Josh,
Yes,
very much so.
yes.
And that's why your perspective is the way that you're looking at karma and the way that you're looking at life. Because when pain comes into the body, we do one thing automatically. Anybody?
Try to ease it.
Contract, shut it down.
Project it out.
We look for somebody to blame. And we'll if we can't find anybody to blame, we'll blame ourselves. Okay? Pain comes in, we look for a rationalization to keep it. So if you believe that you have karma because you have done something to someone else, you're rationalizing your pain, Josh, and that means you're going to keep it. And you'll keep it for a long time, as long as you keep rationalizing it. The only way we can let pain go is to reinterpret it. So where does pain come from, Josh? To reinterpret pain, where would it come from?
I don't know.
Is it true or false?
Pain? It feels true, but if you have this perspective, then it's false.
Yes. When you're experiencing pain, you can just look at that pain you're experiencing now without going into anything else. And just absorb this pain and say, this is not true. This is not of God. This is not real. You're here. You're looking at this. But the problem then is that pain will bring you back down here again because you're attached to it. So that's why complete forgiveness, if you can master that tool. Everybody, it's like everybody here thinks. Is that right, Roy?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure everybody here feels pain. There's nobody here that doesn't feel pain. So, again, it's all about reinterpretation of that pain. Complete forgiveness is where you absorb the pain. I think it was Carl Jung that says, when depression knocks at the door, invite her in. Become one. You know what that means?
Acceptance.
Yes. Anything you're not willing to accept, you're pushing into the bad room.
So one tool that I use now is sometimes I'll do this like a mantra. I forgive myself, I forgive myself. Is there something else that you can do?
Well, you see, you can keep doing that, Josh, but you're holding on to the story, and as long as you hold on to the story, you're going to keep repeating that mantra. And I bet you've been doing that. Yeah?
Yeah, without success.
Yeah, well, it's no wonder. Look at the entire story. Be willing to let the story go.
Okay.
Remember, forgiveness is about attachment. One part of you, right, believes in karma. The other part is trying to detach from it. You can see the problem. You trying the mantra here is creating more of the pain here. So it's that's what rationalization does. It replenishes this. Remember, this is an illusion of two rooms. It's only one room. You know, in reality. So this is why the illusion of good thoughts and the illusion of being good and the illusion of being nice is bloody only an illusion. You know, it's the ego's version of heaven, the persona. But you can't be in the persona in the good room without fear. So, complete forgiveness is about you becoming one with the pain body, invite that pain in, become one with it, and reinterpret it. And your simple reinterpretation of any pain, it's the same with guilt or fear, is this is not true. This is not real. Because the moment pain comes into the body, we just look for something to blame. That's the ego.
So that includes all illness as well?
Everything. The fifth one is simple forgiveness. So advanced forgiveness basically takes you from here to here. Okay? When you awaken up here, alright, you still, if you're in a body, you'll still be doing things here in the world. So it could be very, very easy for you to become attached to a little thing here or there. So you'll know in an instant, anything that takes your peace away, you become attached to it. Simple forgiveness is 3 little steps. Recognize, correct, and release. And that keeps you on level 3. But don't apply simple forgiveness until you apply ATF and understand it well first. The next tool then is basically self-empowerment. Self-empowerment is a very, very important tool for the higher self because it's letting go of the false self. So when you go through those steps in self-empowerment, there are 5 of them, they take you into the right mind. It's another way of becoming right-minded. And then the seventh and the last one of all, 6 was self-empowerment.
Self-empowerment.
So, yeah, simple forgiveness was 5, self-empowerment 6. 7, basically then, is you, at this point, you're either here or here. So all you have to do now is master a life of non-attachment.
Which was Buddha's teaching.
Was it?
Buddha's teaching was detachment.
Yeah.
All
Well, that's-
suffering is caused by attachment.
Well, all spirituality is detachment at the end of the day. Like, and that's what the Course is, that's what forgiveness is. You took one word to apply to the Course, you would say forgiveness, which actually means detachment. It's that simple. So these are the tools that's going to get you to level 2. Okay? So what happens when we get to level 2? What do most people do when they get to level 2?
Start detaching.
No, they do not. They keep looking up. Not true? It's in our nature, because we don't want to look at this. The whole point of getting to here is to look down now and start working on this. Yeah?
That's what they call embodiment.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'm just so happy that you're here, Roy. Okay. Because you have a wealth of knowledge and you're, because these are symbols, like, at the end of the day. So, the work now begins after step 3. You've got to hear. So again, if you were starting out in the Course, these are the things I would suggest that you start to learn first. Because if you start going into the Course without, say, looking at the Course from this perspective, then what are you doing? You're taking everything in the Course and you're putting it into these 2 rooms. Oh, I like this in the Course. Oh, I don't like that in the Course. Everybody takes all the special things out of the Course. Like Ken Wapnick used to say, everybody reads the Course, and when they come to it, the ego's talking about guilt and all the hate and the self-hate and everything, everybody skips over it and just keep going to the nice bits. And Ken used to say that people used to always want to talk about the nice bits. No one wanted to talk about here. Why? Because all they keep them doing is, this is the stuff they don't want to look at. This is the self-hate. This is everything that's wrong in my life is in here. And I only want to look at all this beautiful stuff up here. And even there's 2 more levels on top of that, which is Christ in heaven. So people who are doing the Course, they're just looking up at these levels, and this is where Jesus talks about level of confusion also. So the only thing you have to focus on is here. These 2 here. Get to here, now your work begins. Okay? So that brings us to step 4.